Greetings, everybody. I know it's been a long while since you've heard from Willie and Renee, and we're going to explain that. There's a reason why it's been a while. But right now, we're going to end this part, this series, where we've been talking about how we met and meeting online and dating as older people and all of those kinds of things. And so today we're going to be talking about putting it all together. So, yeah, that's where we're going to get started. So, let's start with dealing with the families. Because as you're older, you have lots of times older children, and even though they're older, they a lot of times, are very interested, not a lot of times, all the time, on who you're with and how that affects them, and do they like them, and do they feel like they're worthy of you, and all of those kinds of things. Yeah. And so let's unpack that a little bit, what happened with us, and then things that may be able to help you is Willie introduced himself to my two girls first and my son-in-law. And I had told them a little bit about him, but not a lot. And Willie's going to explain that as well with the family. It's very interesting. But I didn't tell them a lot because I really did not want anybody getting in my head so much. I knew what principles, as we said in a previous video, what God had showed me of what I needed in a mate and all that. And I wanted to really be able to hear the Holy Spirit. And, I have one daughter who loves love, and everybody is just okay, and it's just great and good. And then one, and my son-in-law, who's skeptical of everybody. I don't know, and you don't really know them, and people lie all the time, and you don't really know him, all of those kinds of things. And so I knew that about them. So I knew one would encourage me, and her husband would discourage me, and my other daughter would dislike everybody. And what was interesting was all three of them right away were like, yes, that's the one. They just loved him. And I was shocked, like, oh my, okay. He really must be the one because they were so interested in him, and he got a chance to talk to them and just present. But it was online as well because we still, as you know, we hadn't met face to face yet. But yeah, dealing with family can be really difficult, because you do appreciate their judgment, and you want to know, that things are good for them and the family because you're joining these families together. So you want to make sure, but also you don't want them to just discourage and, and pour cold water.
With us, well, especially with me, it was important to just have that understanding, appreciation for Renee, because when it comes down to it, it's a true factor. No one especially will be in your household, but you two. And it's important to respect and understand family and so forth. But you do have to have the thought process that not everybody agrees with your opinion. And with that, sometimes you just have to be mindful yourself of who you are and get to know that person for yourself and not share so much about, well, this person says this, that person said that. And then, you can easily get family and friends in a sense to not like the person even before they meet the person or not respect the person. So I thought it was important for me to not share a whole lot with my family, especially like my mom, my sisters, and so forth, brothers, and anything, because I wanted a lot of it to be, well, all of it to be my decision and my connection with the Lord without it being, Lord showing you one thing, but he's not showing that to me. So I believe in the sense that my prayers were being answered by the Lord and not so much I'm looking for everybody else's. prayers to be answered by the Lord, and that's where I go with. Yeah, I wanted to be, the Lord and I and Renee. So therefore, I didn't just come up and say, "Well, what do you think about this?" So I met Renee, and she's saying this, or she's this type of person. I left it up to me and the Lord. And I can truly say that I was blessed in doing so and that it was the right decision for us. And I think because if you start getting everybody's opinion, saying one thing, everybody have different opinion and everybody believe, and they do have that connection with the Lord. And well, the Lord is telling me this. And I don't know necessarily all the time when people say that he is telling them
Right.
certain things. It could be that, for whatever reason, selfish reason, maybe. I don't know. But for me, I was satisfied with my connection with the Lord. And I was assured that, everything was going to be all right. That in due time, when they met Renee and started understanding the type of person she is, that she is truly, someone who the Lord blessed me with. And therefore, when I introduce her and start to share with her about my family and so forth, she got to know them and they got to know
Mhm.
her. And they truly, truly believe that she is the right person for me and can be that support that I'm looking for spiritually as well as just being the Willie that I am or that it used to be. So I'm thankful personally that the Lord saw fit to keep in my mindset not to share because, like I said, I know my family and I know, first question is, well, what the Lord say? And, sometimes people are okay with your opinion, what the Lord says, but then more than likely they want to share what the Lord is saying, this and that and the other. And then you gotta discern, well, is the Lord talking to them or is he talking to me?
Mhm.
So I like the idea that the Lord was talking to me and that I was able to meet her and marry her and just be with her because every
Right.
day, it's becoming more and more in tune with us that,
Mhm.
we were meant to be.
Mhm.
And that I think that that's where you have to go about it. Don't
Mhm.
just necessarily go and try to get everybody's opinion or just say things,
Mhm.
if this person, made you laugh a certain way. Sometimes that's great within you, but don't share everything with everybody because not everybody have your right spirit or the spirit that you
Mhm.
believe that they should have, based
Right.
on your connection with the Lord.
Yeah, it was very interesting with his family. We got married first before they even knew that we were dating. They just knew that we were talking, right? But not that we were that
Mm,
serious or whatever. And I can honestly say they are just the epitome of love. His sisters and his mom and his brother, and all, are just amazing, amazing. And they're just my family. I didn't have any sisters. And now I have two sisters in love. That's what I say in a mom in love. And but I do feel like that maybe if we had shared so much ahead of time, it would have given us maybe pause or them pause, wherein we trusted, okay, God, if you're leading and guiding, then you prepare the way for the family. And with his two girls, they are just amazing. They're beautiful, beautiful girls, and I just love them like my own daughters. And they don't live in the same state that we live in, and they felt comfortable enough to come. Well, wherever their daddy was, they were going to be anyway. So that's that. Okay. But they came and stayed a while. One came one while with her family and the other another time. And we got a chance to really bond and get to know each other. And they were ready for their dad to have somebody, in their life, and my kids too. And that was important as well, is they saw that, we wanted companion. We wanted, people in our lives, and they were open to that as well. And so that's important.
Mhm.
And then we had already discussed our money situation and how things were going to be, and what. And that's very important, because especially when you're older, you're planning for retirement or whatever, and the kids are like, well, what part of my inheritance is she going to get? Or if something happens to him, what is happening? Or something happens to her, whatever the case may be. And so we had those things resolved already and talked about those hard decisions and things, and because a lot of times, if you're, say, just say on a fixed income or whatever, how is that going to work and what? And if you're used to helping taking care of your kids or your grandkids, how is now that's going to affect? Or, some people say, they have a problem with you're giving your child, $100 a month or whatever, or your mom, you're helping to take care of them, and is she going to be okay with that? Or is he going to be all right, with helping your child finish school or whatever the case may be? So it's important that you do talk about those things, is that I'm going to always support my family. I've done this. My mom needs my support, or my dad, or whatever the case may be, Um, and how that's going to work, because you get in the relationship and you're expecting a certain amount of money, and then it's like, oh no, well, I send money this way or do this, that, and the other, or whatever. Or I'm not accustomed to you even telling me, me telling you how much money I make. I'll give you what I'm going to give you, and that's it. And you don't worry about what else I do with my money or whatever, all of those different things, even down to decorating the house or how you do that, or where are you going to live, all of those things, because
Mhm.
normally, when you're a certain age, you have a place to stay already. And if that person, like with us, we didn't live in the same city or state even, so who's going to move with who and what's going to happen and all of that. What was interesting with us was my husband, before we married, he asked me where I would like to live. I was living in Kentucky and he was here in Georgia. And he said, you can live anywhere in the world. Where would you like to live? So I named some different places, and he's like, okay. But we didn't talk first. It was very interesting about, where, uh, who would live where,
Mhm.
or even because I know that has affected um, relationships, is I'm never going to move from my home in Kentucky or my home in Georgia or wherever. So I may as well not even date this person because, they live in a whole other state. I like them and met them, but no, whatever. So you have to sort of be open and start a new life,
Mhm.
and I really am a believer in that. If your mate has died, whatever, then it's important, uh, are we going to stay in the house where your, dead
Mhm.
mate died, and I have to try to adjust to that, and they still have memories there and all of that kind of a thing, or whatever. Those things are very important,
Mhm.
and and me as a marriage and family therapist, I can tell you it can cause a lot of grief, and the relationships that starts off on the wrong foot altogether, because this house is paid for. I'm older. I don't want to get in any more debt. And this is a good place or whatever. And then the lady or the man, it's not their own because they're having to live out the dead husband or the dead wife stuff, or whatever. And
Mhm.
you're saying, well, can we at least get a new bed? Do we have to be in the same bed with the baby? Whatever. I don't get where they were, eat out of their plates. It can really, get to be really a whole situation, a whole thing. So that's important.
Mhm.
But we talked about where to live and all of those things. And so he had been gone away from home since he left for college. as a teenager, basically, come back visit, but not to live. And his mom is older. And I got to thinking that, well, he was here for a little bit, for a couple of years. And his mom was so excited about having her baby boy, because he's a mama's boy. And I like that too. Okay. And she was happy about him being here. And I was like, I think we should move there because, live there for at least a while, so that, you can spend time with your mom. She's older and she would love, uh, to have you here and have you around. And they were surprised. The family was surprised that I was willing to move. I was like, yes, let's move. Let's go down there and live, and be. And I am a big city girl. I was never lived in a small city. And so, he was like, you sure you're going to live in this little town? Like, I always wanted to live in Mayberry. I love Mayberry. But yes. And so I was willing to do that. And so we bought a house together, didn't try to incorporate in my house and his house and try to do all that. We just like, you know what? Let's just start over. That may not be for everybody, but what I'm saying is important that you discuss that and talk about that because we both are all about family. And we had discussed, before we even talked really about getting married, if my family member needs to stay with us, that's important to me, and we were on the same page with that. Maybe your child may need to stay with you for a while, or your elderly parent, whatever. And so we were in agreement with that, to make sure that there's room for whoever, for whatever they need. So that was important. It's also when you talk about family, is the issues that the family may have. We were just absolutely blessed with none of our family, our kids needed our support, where one may, need to stay with mom for a while or need to take care of the grandkids or anything. All of our kids, the four of them, were very stable, able to take care of themselves. They didn't have any incidences or anything. And that's important too. If you have a child, who's not on good footing or whatever, is your mate going to be okay with us, pouring into them or taking them to rehab or keeping the kids? And now we're not just grandparents, but we're parents over again. All of those things are important. So it's important that you discuss those things because you're just so in love and, oh, he's just so great and so good and she's just the greatest thing ever. And then you've got all of these tentacles there that can mess up that relationship or alter it, not just maybe mess it up, but alter it. And you're like, well, I hadn't planned for, you know, to have to take care of her kids or do this, that, and the other, or whatever, take care of his mama, whatever. Those things need to be discussed ahead of time. What do you say?
I agree with that because if when once a couple is together and then things come about, there has to be communication,
Mm,
honest communication, because in this life anything can happen at any given point. Like she's saying about, even this home we're in.
mhm,
If one of us were to pass,
mhm,
what would we do with the house?
mhm,
Could somebody else come here and live? How would our kids feel
mhm,
about that? But the overall thing I think though is that just that communication,
mhm,
just to communicate and be okay with, with the blessing that the Lord
mhm,
has given us,
mhm,
and that your family and all of them know of how you feel,
yes,
that they're
yes.
not going to be,
Mm,
hating you, having somebody else,
mhm,
because once you're one, it's at least supposed to be the family love you and they want the best for you
mhm,
regardless. And I think that they would in most cases,
mhm,
especially for us. I
mhm,
think they would want the best for us, but even
mhm,
though they know that things could change,
mhm,
but they have the assurance. that we're there for them
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
and that it's not going to come a time when we're fighting, or because we believe that the Lord is going to continue to bless us,
Mhm.
and if He don't, so be it. We're still going to be the good
Mhm.
person, people that
Mhm.
we are. At least that's what we believe.
Mhm.
And that's why I think that we can just go on and just say, our family is okay with us, and they're
Mhm.
gonna be okay because we communicate with them, we talk
Mhm.
with them, we share.
Right.
And it is good that we didn't have that baggage of being able
Mhm.
having that thought process of well, I have to do this, so therefore you have to accept it.
Mhm.
And that's what I think it would be, if there was a situation where, another family member, another
Mhm.
person that we're so, in
Mhm.
our family needing something or required something.
Mhm.
I think the way we both are, that we're okay with that.
Mhm.
It's something that we would communicate with.
Right.
But, we knowing that we are okay.
Mhm.
She know that I'm gonna be okay with her,
Mhm.
and I have that assurance that she's okay.
Mhm.
But I would never do anything, nor would she, I don't believe, to
Mhm.
harm us.
Mhm. Right. Right.
This household is taken care of, we're
Mhm.
taken care of, and that's what I think is important. You just know that, you have somewhere to sleep, you have
Mhm.
food to eat, that's a blessing, and
Mhm.
just every day you got to just thank the Lord for all that He's doing for you.
Mhm. It was funny that we even worked out holidays and things like that because everybody is different places, you know. And so we have Christmas Eve there, Thanksgiving here, and then Christmas here or there, or whatever the case may be. And as he said, it's just communicating about everything, and learning from, because you were married before and the relationships before, learning from those relationships. Okay, this is what I could have done different, or this is what I've learned later in
That's
life.
what's important, to be
Mhm.
able just to learn.
Yeah, and say, okay, I don't want to make those same kind of mistakes, or, because there's going to always be stuff. And some things you're not even prepared for because you don't even know. But those things that you can, prepare for and say, let's talk about this, let's talk about that, and the other. Yeah. So that way you're able to navigate smoothly, And one last thing is making sure about the selfishness, is I know for me, I was separate by myself for 20 years. You were for 11 or 12 years. So you get to just move about, in your own space. Is this is how I do this. But when you decide to come together, you have to say, okay,
Hmm.
this is where I put stuff in the refrigerator. This is how I do. Let's bring it together or whatever. Or I wash on Monday. And he's like, well, I don't want my clothes washed on Monday. I want them, whatever. Because you have gotten so into your own routine that you can become selfish and want the person to adjust to you or you adjust to them, instead of like, okay, we're starting over and let's start a whole new thing. I think that's really important. Hmm.
That's just the communication part.
Hmm.
You just let the person know, what it is that you
Hmm.
desire. Like for instance, like she buy love wheat bread.
Hmm.
And something that small, I'm
Oh,
not a wheat bread type person.
right.
Each time I eat a wheat bread sandwich, it's like the bread is bitter. And even though that's something small, but it's something that we,
Hmm.
have to communicate about. Don't
Hmm.
let that fester.
Right.
And
Just buy
then,
two different
you
loaves of
start,
bread.
yeah,
And then be
you
done.
start getting upset. Oh, well, that bread and that type of meat, whatever the case is, it is all about communication. And that's the part that I love, is that I feel comfortable enough to communicate. And whenever we do don't necessarily agree on things, at
Hmm.
least we're blessed to be able to talk about it. And I
Right.
think that's something that you learn, especially that you can learn from past relationships.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
That, there's things that you can do or should do,
Mm-hmm.
especially for the new person that is in your life. You'd want to make sure that that you have that blessing of the Lord, and
Mm-hmm.
that the Lord is giving you a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the most joyous thing that I have, is the fact that I can look at my life and see how much is improved, and be just thankful and grateful that the
Praise
Lord
God.
is doing it without the idea of just, I'm going to go contrary to what my thoughts are, simply because, well, I've never done it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, you just say,
Right, right.
once you give into the Lord, look, I'm giving it in, and this is what we're going to do. But I
Fine.
still don't like wheat bread, but it's something that we do.
Right, right, right. Just get two separate kinds
Yeah.
of bread. That's it,
I
and
don't
we're
like
good.
white bread, but
Okay.
yeah,
Honey.
yeah, honey wheat.
Mhm. Um,
So,
yeah, that was great. Let's let you now, Willie, with your Willie words of wisdom. Yes,
mm,
yes, as we end. But let me say this before we do end, is that we're going to be doing another video and explaining what took us so long to start doing these over again, because I got a different diagnosis of some things, and we're going to be opening up about that to you. So stay tuned for that, because it's going to be a whole process, and we're going to let you come along with us on it. Okay, that
mm.
sounds good. Okay, give us some words of wisdom to end with.
Well, to end with, as far as current events goes, I am surprised that a lot of people, especially maybe older people, are not fully aware the term tariffs, what it means and how it affects
Mm,
us, and what we can buy and do and so forth. But just to make it clear, what tariff is, for instance, if we buy an item from, say, China, that is sold in the U.S., when that item come from China on the ship or what have you, at the port, uh, the um, the people that are receiving the item from China, before they can give it to an importer, they have to collect taxes on it. And taxes, as President Trump has said, is 25% on a lot of stuff, or most things. So the person at the port have to collect 25% from the receiving company. And the receiving company pays the shipping company that 25%. So what that means is that company that made the item, if they don't get the money that they are wanting for it, they wouldn't ship it.
mm,
And so the U.S. is saying, we want 25%, but when it comes to not understanding tariff, people don't understand that tariff is applied
mm,
when the consumer buys the item,
mm. Okay.
obtains the item
Mm,
from the importer or the store, what have you. And that 25% can either some of or all of be absorbed by the importer, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be that the consumer will be obligated to pay the entire thing, which will inevitably raise prices for us. So, with that being said, I think that we need to look further into what items are being imported and what
mm,
items
mm,
will have tariff, and that we may have to look an alternative as far as what we're actually spending. Do we
mm.
want to spend X amount just for this item compared to a U.S. brand? So it's something to think about. Just look
Yeah,
deeper
yeah.
into the idea of tariffs, so that
Mhm.
it's making sure that it's something that people want to accept, that you want to pay the difference
Mm,
in it,
mm,
because it's actually a tax that the consumer pays when they purchase an item.
mm. Okay. Mm. Thank you. He explained that to me because all I remember about tariffs is saying the tariffs are coming, the tariffs are coming. I didn't know what. And you know, we hear about it so much on the news, and he explained it, and I was like, yeah, there's a lot of people I can tell from the comments that don't understand what tariffs are. Okay, so we're closing out this video today. And as I said, we're going to be coming back and telling you about some different things that's happening in our life. But until then, if you find value in this, then listen to it, subscribe, you know, see what's going on with us, how it can help you, and share it with other people. Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
All right, until next time, see you.